Hello, my name is Jesse Meekum with another episode of The Jesse Meekum Show, and I'm here each week to obsess out loud about spending purposefully, aspirationally, joyfully. It all comes down to just giving every dollar a job. That is the principle we teach, and that is the principle around which I have built a little tiny piece of software, which I sometimes forget to mention on this show. It is called YNAB. Go to ynab.com/Jesse to find out more about it. But today I want to kind of, again, not really talk about the app. I want to talk about exploring you through the lens of your money. Now, spendfulness, achieving that place of more margin, virtually no second guessing, is where you want to be. But it's an exploration to get there. And over the years, I don't know why, this started with the podcast where I would think out loud. And I would just experiment, and it would always teach me something. And so I wanted to kind of rehash some of the experiments that I've done over the years and give that to you as experiment fodder. Also ask you, if you wouldn't mind, maybe comment and give me some ideas for experiments that I might try in the future. This year, I want to just move to mostly cash and literally just carry around wads of cash. But look what's happened. I am yet to actually make it happen by going to the ATM and pulling out said cash and, giving some to Julie and being like, hey, Julie, here's our experiment for the year. She's very used to these experiments. So that might be a signal in and of itself that getting that cash out is a bit of a blocker. Anyway, that was one I was going to run for 2025, and I'm yet to start. And here we are, we're into it quite a bit. So I don't even know if I could call it a 2025 experiment just yet. The first experiment I ever did was simply rating every time we ate out. And I would record it in YNAB. And in the memo, I would just mention, I don't even remember how I rated it, 1 to 10 or 1 to 5. Don't even know. But I'll tell you what we learned. We learned that eating out isn't all it's cracked up to be. And I must say, without us saying we're not going to eat out anymore, but we don't eat out, really, at all. We eat out when we are not home, like when we're on vacation. Then we'll eat out. And even then, we've started going to grocery stores and just grabbing food and cooking, in the Airbnb or whatever. So I do think it was kind of the beginning of us looking at that food and looking at that experience in totality and recognizing that we were paying a lot for what we saw as very little. The next experiment I did was what I called hyper budgeting, and it was where I manually recorded every single transaction. I did not allow the bank to import transactions. I would literally, if I had missed something, just go to the bank, look at it, and type it in real manual-like. And this was an experiment in trying to just be really, really in touch with my spending, and that forcing function of manual entry did the job. In that year, we did spend quite a bit less than we normally do. There would be times where I wouldn't want to spend the money simply because I didn't want to record the transaction in YNAB. That was a good one. So to counter that one, the following year, I did a little experiment where I thought, hey, I've built up this muscle of being very aware of my spending. We're feeling very spendful. Certainly, we don't need to follow any kind of plan. And so we didn't. We didn't use YNAB really at all. And that was the year of what I call dark money, and not in the way that you might think of dark money, but that was the moment where money just seemed to disappear. And throughout that year, our average checking account balance declined. Well, let me do the math really quick. It declined by about 22% and just stayed there. And to this day, I cannot tell you where that 22% went. But I do know when we turned it around and started working YNAB again, the 22% reappeared. So I'm not sure. Yeah, dark money. I don't recommend that particular experiment. The next year was the year of Julie, my wife, running YNAB. And that lasted about 8 months before, I'm not going to say she handed back the reins, but she gratefully gave them to me when I asked for them back. Julie runs virtually everything with the household except YNAB, and there's a reason why. I find joy in it. She is yet to find her joy in it. It was it was a good test. It was fun. It was good for her to have the view from my side of like, hey, what's this from? I wish I knew more about this so I could categorize it correctly, that kind of thing. So there was maybe some empathy built in the relationship for both sides. But we also found there are things we like to do in the relationship and things we don't. And that's totally okay. The last real experiment that I ran began in 2023, I believe. And it was where I said I would no longer use credit cards. And I have not gone back. That's that. I don't use credit cards anymore. Well, that's not true. The business uses a credit card because it totally enhances your cash flow in the sense that, transaction management among employees and not having to preload spend cards and things like that. So there's a big reason you still use it in a business, but in a household, we're loving the simplicity. And if there's one thing that I'm hoping my experiments teach me over the years is I want to be more spendful. It means I want to know myself more, and I want to see my spending line up with that known self better and better. Then I also want things to be as simple as possible. And the experiments have been ways for me to just kind of stress test some simplicity. Sometimes I make it overly complex, like manual entry of everything, in order to kind of feel something different and know more about myself. And then other years I've gone full simplicity, but maybe lost a little bit of signal and dealt with a little more noise than I would like to as it relates to this very precious resource that we call money. So I would encourage you to recognize this journey toward or in spendfulness to just be a journey. Experiment, try things on, and just see what fits, what you like, what you don't like. There is no one perfectly right way. The only perfectly right thing every time, without exception, is to give every dollar a job.